Last year, I visited Devoxx and attended several AI-related talks about local LLMs, LangChain for J, AI coding assistants, and so on. And I finally saw how I could start using AI within the Java ecosystem. However, using AI for coding-related talks was not successful. I got off-topic responses, non-compiling code, old solutions like Spring Boot 2 answers instead of Spring Boot 3. So I put it aside for a while, until I saw this post on X from Stefan Janssen, founder of Devoxx, which we all know, about the release of the DevoxxGenie plugin. A plugin integrated in the IntelliJ IDE and not bound to a specific cloud provider or local LLM. And being able to use a local LLM is very important to me, because due to company policies, I'm not allowed to send company source code to a cloud provider. For whom is it also forbidden to send company source code to a cloud provider? Oh, it's about 20%. And you all do have AI company policy? Oh, that's not so much. That's only a few hands. So you should have an AI company policy. So I've been using the DevoxxGenie plugin for a couple of months now, and I would like to share my experiences with it. So what features does it offer us? So several cloud and local LLMs are supported. You are able to send the full project source code into the prompt context. And the prompt context is next to your prompt. You can send extra data, extra information to the LLM. So when you can give the LLM your full project source code, it will give you better responses. So based on the git ignore file, files are excluded and directories are excluded. So this is interesting when you want to reduce costs. When you need more focused responses, you are able to add files and code snippets to the context. When using a cloud provider, the token cost is very important, because you are charged based on the tokens. And a token is something like 3/4 of a word. And with the token cost calculator, you can get an estimate of what it will cost you. The responses have code highlighting, so it's better readable. When you start prompting, you will notice that the first response is not entirely correct. Most of the time, you want to alter it. So you're going to create another prompt. But in that case, it is interesting that the previous prompt and responses, they are sent also to the LLM, because otherwise it has not enough context. It does not know what the previous prompts and responses were. So this is also called the chat memory. The chat history is locally stored, so all your prompts and responses, they are stored locally. For example, if I would create a prompt and get a response now, then I can restore it tomorrow, for example. It has a web search functionality. In that case, the prompt will first be sent to, for example, the Google Search API, and based on the response, the LLM can create its own response and answer your prompt. And the plugin is written 100% in Java using LangChain for J. So the following cloud providers are supported, and in the demo we will be using Claude 3.5 Sonnet from Anthropic. And if you want to know the differences between all these models, then you should take a look at artificialanalysis.ai, because they provide an independent analysis based on the use case. So for the coding task, in the right graph, you can see that Claude 3.5 is in the top 3. But you also need to take into account the pricing, because that's also important. And then Claude is second. The following local LLMs are supported. In the demo, we will be using LMStudio with Llama 3.1 as a model. And when you're using a local LLM, you must take into consideration your hardware. For example, a GPU will be faster than a CPU. The amount of memory available will limit your context size. So you will probably not be able to send your full project source code to a local LLM. And when you're take a look at the models available, for example at Hugging Face, then you will notice that different variations on the same model are available. And they are indicated with Q2, Q4, Q5, and so on. And the higher means a better quality, but will also require a better hardware. In the end, it's a trade-off between quality and the performance. So enough for the introduction. We are here for the action, right? And I needed a demo application, and I chose the SpringPad Clinic, because most of us will know the SpringPad Clinic. And I do want to show one piece of functionality. And you can find owners. And when you click this Find Owner button, you see a list of the owners in the clinic. And we also have pagination. And when you want to search for a specific owner, Franklin, then the owner information is shown. So that's nice. Let's take a look at some code. And first shut down the pet clinic. Now the functionality we saw just before, it is implemented in the backend by means of a Spring Boot owner controller. And more specifically in this process find form. And let's assume that I'm new to Spring, I'm a junior developer. Then I can select this method. And I can use this utility command, explain. And I can press the submit prompt button. This is interesting. I got an IntelliJ update this afternoon. Oh, Anthropic is not available. That's the problem. Okay, we can fix that. We can choose another model. So Sonnet 3.5 Sonnet is the best model, but it seems there's a problem at their side. So we'll use Claude 3 Sonnet. So we get similar responses. So what you see now, this explain utility command, it is translated to a prompt. And when we take a look at this explanation, then it clearly explains us what this method is doing. It explains the parameters. It tells us what's happening with empty results when one result is retrieved, and when multiple owners are retrieved. So that's quite a nice feature. But let's take it a little bit more difficult. And let's assume that I want to create a new feature. So I want to search for pets, similar functionality as for finding owners. Implement it. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to add the full project to the prompt, because it's a feature and it will need more classes. More classes are involved, so I add full project to the context. It's 35K tokens. Then I will submit. Now, as I said in the introduction, we have this calculate tokens and the cost. So when I click this button, then in this case, for Claude 3 Sonnet, it costs $10. So that's not very much when you want to implement a feature. And in the meanwhile, we got a response. So it's telling us what to do. We have to create a process find pet form. And it gives us all we have to do. It's not exactly the response I expected now, because I would like to have 3.5 Sonnet, but more files are involved, because it has a backend code and also front-end code, which is in time leaf. but I have a backup plan. So I added the response I got with 3.5 in a different branch. And what I needed to do, I needed to fix the imports. The model is not very good at giving me the right imports right away. But it still has a compiler error. This pet.getOwner method does not exist. So what I needed to do is I can ask Claude to fix it. In the pet search controller, the pet.getOwner method does not exist. And I press this submit prompt button. So what you see now is the chat memory in action. The previous prompt and response, they are sent to Claude. And based on that information, it will tell us what to do and how to fix it. So it says, let's update the code. Claude 3.5 is more polite. It apologizes first. So now that we fixed it, I've applied this to a final solution branch. And let's see how the feature looks like. So we start a pet clinic again. We go to this page. Now we've got this Find Pets button, so that's already nice in the navigation menu. But as you can see, the layout is not exactly what I expected. But let's find out whether it's functional. Let's click this Find Pet button. And we've got a list of pets, including pagination. So that's already nice. And what happens when I want to search for a single pet? Then I got the information of the owner. So maybe that's not exactly what I wanted, but I asked for similar functionality. And these are the things that you need to explain to an LLM. You have to be very specific, but you have to work in an iterative way. And this way, the LLM will come with better responses and better answers. So I'm not quite satisfied with this solution, because we have implemented a new feature, but we do not have any unit tests. And I would like to have unit tests. I'm going to try once more whether 3.5 Sonnet is available. Yes?
Will I be billed every time those 10 cents or I submit a new query?
That's a good question. I forgot to tell this. But after each prompt, you've got here the statistics, so it will tell you how much time it costed and the number of tokens it has sent. So the first time it will, I'm wondering why this is 2000, but this doesn't matter. But the first time it had 35K tokens and the output tokens, so it's roughly 35K tokens. And the next time, in the chat memory, the full project source code is added again. So you will be charged again the 10 cents. But maybe more, because you added the response and the next prompt. If you do not want that to happen, then you just create a new chat window and you start anew. And then you can add specific files manually, for example. Does that answer your question? So I do want unit tests. Yeah. We also have a short utility command for that. And then I'm going to submit the prompt. And as you notice now, I did not select any files, or I did not add the full project context. Anthropic is not helpful today. So I'm going to the backup plan. So we are using this unit test, and now I'm wondering whether this will work. I'm curious, because with 3.5 Sonnet gives us a working code. So when we take a look at this unit test, it's a pet search controller test. That's already correct. It has a test for empty name returns view, a single result, for multiple results. That seems to be a quite okay test. So what you can do now, you click this button and it copies the source code. Then you just navigate to your test folder and we paste it. That's a nice feature from IntelliJ. You can paste it in the package and then it creates a class for you. Let's see where this runs. 2 failed tests. Now 3.5 Sonnet, it creates 3 successful tests. So 3.5 Sonnet is better than 3, that's obvious. But what you need to do here, when you've got a response, you always need to review the code. You just do not have to copy blindly the code and apply it to your source code. You always need to try to understand what's happening. Otherwise, you get nonsense into your code. We do not want that. I'm still not satisfied because I want Javadoc. And I want Javadoc because I have to write Javadoc. Otherwise, SonarQube is not satisfied. But I only want Javadoc for this process find form. And using Javadoc is probably something we have to do more often. In that case, you can write your own prompts and shortcut utility commands. As you see here, we've got this test and explain default prompts, and there's also a review one. But you can add here your own prompt, doc. Write Javadoc for public and local, for public classes and methods in order that it clearly explains its functionality. That shall do. And we create a new chat window. And we're going to use this doc prompt. Now let's see what Claude tells us. It says it's a controller method. That's correct. That handles the request to find pets. That's also correct. And the parameters are also correct. So that's nice. We do not have to write any Javadoc anymore. Or at least I cannot write it that fast. The only thing I have to do, I have to review it and apply it to my source code and create a pull request. Now, up till now, we used a cloud provider. And I'm not allowed to use a cloud provider, so I have to use a local one. Let's see what is happening when we are going to do exactly the same thing, but this time with a local LLM. So I select this code again, and again /doc. This will take a bit longer because I do not have a GPU, I only have a CPU. But with LMStudio, it's very nice because you can see what's happening in the background. And I'm also interested in that. So when we take a look here, so here we can see the message that is sent to the model. We got a system message. This tells the model how to behave. And we've got here our user message. And this is our user prompt, and then the selected piece of code. The nice thing from a local LLM is I can hear when it starts working. Let's take a look at some settings in the meanwhile. In this page, you can see the some general settings. There's also a streaming mode, but I would advise not to use it, because in the response there's still a bug. When you copy the source code, the line breaks are removed, and that's quite annoying. So there's still an issue for that, so if you can fix it, that would be nice. And you can here add your API keys for your cloud provider. We've got here some local LLM settings. So the important one is this temperature. This tells the model how creative it may be. And for coding task, I've set it to 0 because I do not want to be too creative. But example for variable naming, you can set it to a higher value. And it's most of the time a value between 0 and 1. It's also possible to define one between 1 and 2, but then the model starts behaving weird. And also this timeout in seconds, I've set it to the maximum value of 10 minutes. You can set it to a lower one, but most of the time, the local questions, the local prompts, it takes about 1 minute, depending on how big the prompt is. And I've set this maximum attempts to 1, because when you reach a timeout, and then it tries to attempt for a second time, it will again give a timeout, so that's nonsense. Let me show this one we saw. And here is the settings where you can define whether you use the git-ignore file or not. You can also exclude the directories and files yourself, but I would not advise to do so. But you can also exclude the Java doc, because the model does not need the Java doc. It should be enough that it has the code. So now we've got the response from our local model, and first it gives us some information about the /doc command, so that's quite useless. But it also gives us a correct Java doc. It tells us what it's doing, and the parameter descriptions are correct. So that's nice. But as you can see, it took 77 seconds, so that's quite long. Now let's take it to a next level. And let me show you how I fixed the bug in the Devoxx Genie plugin with the help of the Devoxx Genie plugin. That's awesome, right? And it also shows you how you can contribute to Devoxx Genie. So what I did, I forked the repository, and the only thing you need to do is when you want to test the code, you run this run IDE Gradle task. And this starts a new IntelliJ window with the Devoxx Genie code. And we're going to demonstrate the web search functionality. So what is Devoxx Genie? And with this button in the middle, it says search Google for an answer. So I'll click this button. And we've got an error. An error in the Devoxx Genie plugin. It's a null pointer exception, so it's also a classic one. So I copied the relevant piece of code from the stack trace, the relevant stack trace, close the window, and now let's ask Claude to fix it. After clicking the search Google for an answer button, I can make typos, so the model will know what I mean. The following exception occurs. Fix it, please. And I add full project context, so it's 104K tokens. As you can see here in the top, 200K tokens are supported. That's quite a large code base already. And let's see what it's going to tell us. What you see here in the meantime, we've got this conversation history. So this is what I did 3 days ago. So I practiced. When I double-click this, then it will restore the prompt and the response I got 3 days ago. So that's a nice feature of the Devoxx Genie plugin. And we've got an answer. So it tells us that we have to fix it in several classes. So several classes are involved. And with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, it gave me a response where I had to apply fixes in 4 or 5 classes. So I applied this in this branch. And check out, and let's see whether this works. So this is the response as is, what I tried here. What is Devoxx Genie? So no exception, that's good. And now first the prompt is sent to Google Search API and it retrieves us the results, and then the results are sent to the local LLM, and then it will create a response for us. And to be honest, I did not apply the response as is what I got from Claude 3.5. But it gave me insight in where the changes could be. So I did not know anything about the Devoxx Genie plugin source code, but still I was able to fix it quite fast. So it gives us information about Devoxx Genie, so that's great. One thing I would like to show you, no, not that one, this one. Not this one. There are still several other possibilities to add code to the prompt. When you click this right mouse click context menu, you can select specific files or add directories to the prompt context. You can also calculate the tokens for a directory. And what you also can do is you can click this button at the bottom right corner, and then I can select open files, or I can search for files. There's an action buttons panel, so I can select this one, and then you can easily add specific files to the context. Some final slides. How to get started with the Devoxx Genie plugin. You install Devoxx Genie plugin via the JetBrains marketplace, so that's not so difficult. You download the local LLM and a model. You might subscribe to a cloud provider, so they are quite good, and it's not that the pricing is also good. You follow Devoxx Genie on X, so you get news from new releases. You need to stay up to date. You need to follow people on X. You need to subscribe to newsletters, because every few weeks new models are released, and they are always better than the ones before. And you can contribute to Devoxx Genie. Some interesting links. Before this talk, I published a blog where you get a step-by-step guide how you can start using Devoxx Genie plugin. This is a YouTube video, an interview from Stefan with JetBrains, where he explains some additional features and possibilities of Devoxx Genie plugin. The GitHub page of Devoxx Genie, the link to artificial analysis, and this last one is an interesting blog about how to create practical prompts specifically for coding. So that's also interesting information. My name is Rotsaert. I'm a senior systems engineer at ICT Opus. I blog at mydeveloperplanet.com. You can follow me at Twitter, X. Please rate this session, and there's a QR code to the slides. And thank you.